I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk on a lot of things. I didn't agree with his general position as a religious conservative. I didn't really appreciate a lot of his argumentation styles. I thought it was actually rather poor. But none of that matters in the context of his murder. It's about the fact that violence as a response to speech is a threat to all of us. It's an attack on thought itself. Charlie himself once said that when discourse ends, violence begins.
Because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
And the exact opposite is true as well. When violence begins, discourse ends. What he was doing, what he was so hated for, was engaging in discourse, peaceful discussion with people. He was trying to get them to question things, to question what they believe, to question the status quo. He was trying to get people to think. And when you use violence to silence someone like that, you're not just stopping one person from speaking, you're trying to stop everyone from thinking. Whether you agreed with Charlie Kirk or not is entirely missing the point. What his murder so concretely illustrates about our culture is that it is dominated by people who do not want you to think and are willing to kill in order to ensure that you don't. Now, firstly, I want to dive into who these people are and how they function before going into why people being killed for their opinions is a really terrible thing. When I was growing up, I saw this antagonism toward thought all around me and my peers. I started to see it around middle school. But the second I or someone around me would question the way we are supposed to think, things like multiculturalism, things like environmentalism or Marxism, or any of these ideas that we are supposed to think that are part of the modern message, I would be met with hostility, with rage. All they had in response were ad hominem, straw men, or just shouting me down until I stopped talking. They would call me an idiot for asking questions. They would call me stupid for not just doing what I was supposed to do without question. In other words, being thoughtless was seen as being thoughtful, and the other way around. And the thing is, even if I didn't say something, even if I didn't contradict anything, I was just stayed silent, that would still make them uncomfortable. And sometimes they would even condemn me if I said nothing. They didn't feel comfortable unless I was compliant. That was about 18 years ago, and I've only seen this problem get far, far worse. Not just in, the people that I knew then, but as a pretty universal issue with a lot of the younger age groups across the whole of the West. This antagonism isn't about being against hatred or hateful ideas, because that's what they claim. It's being against thinking. It's they're against you trying to think and understand the world. They do not want to see the facts, and they want to keep you from seeing them. There's a great quote by Ayn Rand in Atlas Shrugged that really describes the spirit of these people and really describes the sickness that is gripping the West. They do not want to own your fortune. They want you to lose it. They do not want to succeed. They want you to fail. They do not want to live. They want you to die. They desire nothing, and they hate existence. And they keep running, each trying not to learn that the object of his hatred is himself. They are the essence of evil. They, those anti-living objects who seek, by devouring the world, to fill the selfless zero of their soul. It is not your wealth that they're after. Theirs is a conspiracy against the mind, which means against life and man. This is the essence of nihilism. Self-hatred and the hatred of life itself. These are the ideas that have been dominant in the West for decades now, and it's these ideas that bring people to this point of self-hatred. They teach us that there is no truth, that everything is subjective, that life is pointless, that there are no values, that everything is meaningless. The result of someone being raised in a culture that teaches them this is someone who has long since given up on thinking. All they know is constant anxiety, depression, purposelessness, and the result of all that is just the constant hatred of their own existence. This does not produce someone who looks like they're a bit anxious or depressed. It ends up producing someone who projects all of that self-hatred outward as a worldview, because from their point of view, they don't see themselves as broken or missing something or needing help. They see themselves as seeing the truth, and that their misery is just because they understand the nature of life. So for them, they don't have a problem. It's you. You have the problem. These people will do anything to not look inward at the problems and the pain that they're in, because they don't see any resolution to any of it. And the result of this is a generation of people who have given up on thinking, given up on building a life for themselves. We see this hatred of life all across the West nowadays. I mean, look at how a lot of people react to, people being killed in Europe for questioning Islam, or people being jailed or even killed in England and the UK for questioning the incredibly destructive things that the UK government is doing. People will blame those people. Oh, they had it coming. Oh, it was their fault. Oh, they shouldn't have said something against, this incredibly peaceful religion that only ends up killing people. Or they'll say, oh, this person doesn't like being raped and murdered, they must be racist. They will do everything to strawman these people's arguments, to make them seem ridiculous and hateful and horrible just for wanting to live. That's all these people want to do over in Europe and the UK. They only want to live their lives, and they can't. They're being killed. Literally, they are being killed. And when they complain about being killed, people say, how dare you? How dare you say that you want to live? And that gets right to the core. And the UK won't let them fly their own flag. And people will say, ooh, no, it's because it represents slavery.
Both of these flags which you've displayed here, those are the flags which flew on ships which enslaved my ancestors. Those are the flags which the British Army marched into places like India, Pakistan, Bengal, Africa, and colonized 25% of the world.
Really, what they hate about it is that it represents civilization, law, order. It represents the incredible moral achievements that sanction life, that give us law and order in civilization, which is exactly what these nihilists hate. They are against that. And of course, they can't just come out and say that. They have to strawman it. They have to turn it into a lie.
People aren't putting up this flag to celebrate Britain. They're putting up this flag to remind us that Britain is white and we shouldn't be here.
And one of the best examples of nihilism in action in our culture today is that guy who blew up that fertility clinic. He didn't do it for some political agenda. He didn't do it for some thing to gain. He did it simply because it was a center that made life. College campuses in America have been pumping out these nihilists for decades now. Instead of producing educated, thoughtful people who seek the truth, they pump out close-minded, thoughtless people who are just these husks who hate existence and hate anyone who points out the truth. This is why if someone points out a fact they don't want to hear, they'll say they've been triggered and consider it to be assault. It's why they seek safe spaces where they know that no one will mention a fact they don't want to hear. They don't want to discuss, they don't want to debate. They want you to shut up and obey. It's this mentality that leads to authoritarianism. You're starting to see it in places like the UK, where they're arresting people who don't go along with what they want, which just makes it so incredibly ironic that these people will call a man who is in favor of peaceful discourse a fascist, when they're the ones who are in favor of killing anyone who disagrees with them. Now, to conclude this whole section of talking about who these people are and what motivates them, is when reason is gone, when reason is not on the table anymore, the only thing left is violence. And this is exactly what we've been seeing in the West for decades now. People are talking less, people are thinking less, people are reading less, and violence is only going up. And all of it comes down to the ideologies we have been taught. The ideologies that teach us that there is no truth, that we have no means of understanding the world around us, certainly not with reason, and that life is ultimately meaningless. The reason this is such a horrible thing for all of us is because when speech becomes impossible, violence becomes the only option. We've been seeing for a long time now a wholesale attack on the freedom of speech from both the left and the right. People banning books, people trying to censor each other. The whole thing with cancel culture. Like, someone said a thing that they didn't like, so they want to make sure that no one else hears it too. The second someone resorts to silencing the opposition, they are telling you that one, they do not have an argument. And 2, they don't care about the truth. Someone who's interested in the truth will engage in discourse. And if they can't have an argument, then they'll learn, they'll think about it. They'll come back later, or they'll just go off on their own and have a good think. Someone who doesn't want to think is going to resort to silencing people, to killing them, to banning books, to doing whatever they need to do in order to make sure that idea that they don't want to hear is gone. And it's been really creepy and shocking to hear from a lot of people online things like, oh, he lost the debate, which is crazy. It's the shooter who lost the debate. And anyone who sided with the shooter, they've lost the debate because they're the ones admitting that they cannot engage in discourse, that they can't have a discussion. These people who have to resort to killing this guy in order to win against his arguments, I mean, all they're doing is saying that they have no arguments and that ultimately they know that they're wrong. Only someone who fears the truth will use violence in order to silence people. To refer to what I said earlier in the previous section, it's not that they want to be right. It's that they want to ensure that you don't know the truth. When reason is gone, violence is the only thing that's left. It's super scary to me how many people online are celebrating the fact that peaceful discourse didn't happen, that someone was murdered for speaking their own opinion, for trying to get people to think, and people are celebrating this. They can claim to not be the hateful ones, but I mean, when they're out there celebrating someone being murdered for just trying to talk to people, just trying to think about life, no, that's crazy. People are coming up with the craziest rationalizations to justify murder, someone being killed for his opinions, saying things like he asked for it, or that he was fomenting rage and hatred and had it coming, and that he has hurt millions. Hurt millions? Who? How? When? Whether you agree or disagree with his position is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what he thought. It doesn't matter whether you're on the left or the right. When people aren't able to speak freely, we're not able to think freely. Those two are the same thing. And this is exactly what the nihilists want. They want your mind off, just like theirs is. And that's why his death matters. Not because of what he said in life, but because of what his death represents. When we don't acknowledge the real enemy here, the real enemy being the attack on the freedom of speech, which is the attack on thought, which is the attack on liberty and civilization and everything good that rests upon. If we allow ourselves to be sucked into the hatred and the anger and the violence of the situation, we allow ourselves to be sucked into a world where having a different opinion is punishable by death. Now, if you're to gain any value from Charlie Kirk's life, let it be that he saw an incredible value in discourse, in talking about ideas, in never letting that stop, because the second that stops, violence is the only alternative. And what we need now is a renewed passion for the truth and a love for the freedom of speech.
I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
I've never seen someone do this.
Well, it's a growing trend because people like me are facing violence, assaults, the left. Yes, the campus Antifa. I've been stormed out of restaurants. I've been assaulted publicly, multiple death threats.
Okay, so what's your goal in all this?
There's more people that agree with me than some people would actually believe, and they come out of the woodwork when I do stuff like this. We record all of it so that we put it on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens, because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity.